Give it up for yourselves, New York, one more time. This is the Rise Up for Abortion Rights Now protest. We are taking part in this, joining our sisters and others in cities across the country, over a dozen cities. People are taking to the streets. Why? Why are we taking to the streets? We're going to ignore them. We're here with something important to do. We are here because right now we face an abortion rights emergency. We know that right now the Supreme Court of the United States is poised to strip away women's fundamental right to abortion. And this cannot be allowed. This cannot be allowed. If this goes through, women and others in over 24 states will lose the right to abortion. They are cheering for it. They are cheering for it at state houses across the country, where women haters are having an Olympics to see who can be the most cruel. From Arizona to Florida, from Oklahoma, which is speaking, that's right, Karina, to Oklahoma, where they're banning it from conception with felony charges. Right now, we're here because only the people can stop this. We are here because we need to take to the streets and rise up for abortion rights now. We are here to talk about abortion on demand and without apology. Forced motherhood equals female enslavement.
That's right.
Rise up. Wear green.
Raise your hand if you value life. And because we value life, we need abortion rights, right? It's time we talk about the war on women. It's time we acknowledge how many women will die from being denied abortion access. And it doesn't stop there, because you know that they will also go against contraceptives, education, proper education, which is what we need to prevent these tragedies, and value life.
And so we're gonna, it is an emergency. It is an emergency for abortion.
That's right.
We are going to have a rally here, and then we're going to take to the streets to sound the alarm and bring it to others. I am so excited to welcome Merle Hoffman, founder and CEO of Choices Medical Center.
Give it up for Merrill.
An initiator of Rise Up for abortionrights.org.
They're going to bring me my 6-7-foot hanger. And when they do, I want everyone to look at that closely, because you are looking at your future. I heard anti-abortionists over to the left scream about the violence of abortion. I have used this hanger. Hold it up very high, because this will be your future. This is one of the things that abortion can be illegal, difficult, but women understand that they must have that control. Now, why are we wearing green today, and why do we hold green? Why? Because green is the color of the earth, and this is in the earth, in reality, women's humanity and women's lives. Green is also the color of fertility. And who should control women's fertility but women? Green is the color of renewal and resurrection. And we have to renew the passion for this issue. We have to renew our courage. And we have to resurrect our badassness and get out there and fight these people. Wait a minute, just have to fix my abortion facilities in this country. One of the first. My first patient was from New Jersey because abortion was still illegal in 1971 in New Jersey. 2 days ago, I saw 2 women who came to me from Texas, where Sam said they have a heartbeat bill. So if a doctor detects a heartbeat in a fetus at 6 weeks, sometimes before women even know they're pregnant, they cannot do an abortion. But you know something? You can detect a heartbeat in me. I can detect a heartbeat in every living woman that stands before me, because we are human beings, you see, and we have civil rights. And if you think the pill will save us, it won't. Because the abortion refugees from Texas who went to Oklahoma in droves are now stopped in Oklahoma because they just passed the most draconian ban possible, okay? So understand this. They go to the doctor for an abortion in Texas, they can't get it. In droves, they go to Oklahoma and they're stopped there, okay? Franz Kafka couldn't have thought up something more bizarre, okay? So now, what we're looking at is a world where women are going to be second-class citizens, if anything. They will not have control over their reproduction, and they will be forced into unwanted motherhood. And I say that's a form of slavery. They call this pro-life. I call it violence and slavery. And I think that this right must be cast under the 13th Amendment, which is the amendment against slavery. Now we're going to have to work very hard in the coming months, days, years. And you have to, as I said, resurrect your courage, resurrect your will, and renew your righteous rage. A few days ago, Amy Coney Barrett was speaking in the Ronald Reagan Library. And there was a great warrior from Rise Up. And in the middle of this, she stood up and she said, forced motherhood is female enslavement. And Coney Barrett was just standing there, and if you really looked at her, you could see a smirk going across her face. Well, I want you to remember what Gandhi said, and what he said is, first, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And we will win. But winning takes a lot of different definitions. You are winning by standing here today, holding your signs and coming out. And remember that warriors are not born. They are created. We create ourselves, and you create yourselves into a warrior. So understand and always remember that your body is your country, your dreams are your own, and you must fight to protect and defend them. Thank you.
Hey everyone, give it up again! We want to remind you to hold your phones, take a selfie, take a photo, and tag us at Rise Up, the number 4, abortion rights. Hashtag Rise Up for abortion rights with the number 4. And remember to donate to this movement. This is all created by change makers like you are today, showing up here for women's lives, for our humanity. So make sure you go into riseupforabortionrights.org. And now I have the pleasure of introducing someone who is a performer, songwriter.
It's a win. That's okay, that's me.
So she's a wonderful performer, singer, songwriter, and she's going to give a testimonial read by Britton Ashford. Please give it up by Britton Ashford.
That's fine. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
I'm awesome. I'm reading a story of Liz. It's really important to note that Liz is now a retired professor. She's been married for over 50 years. She's a mother of 2 and grandchildren of 3 at the time that she wrote this. And this is her story. In 1964, I was a high school senior at a private school here in New York City. I had an older boyfriend, Bill, who was 19. We were each living at home with our parents, and Bill agreed that he would ask before we actually had intercourse. I had decided that if he asked me, I would agree, but before he did one afternoon, he slipped in without asking. But from there, we had sex often. I was very naive. My closest girlfriends had not yet had sex. I knew about birth control. My mother had a diaphragm, and I knew what birth control pills were. Planned Parenthood was nearby, but I didn't know that at the time, nor did I know any teens who used pills. But I trusted my boyfriend, who was more experienced. I don't think I even knew what condoms were before we used them, and at times we were using saran wrap as protection. He also claimed he could withdraw and keep me from getting pregnant. But most importantly, if I did get pregnant, he said he would marry me. 5 months after we first had sex, I missed my period and thought I might be pregnant. I assumed we would marry and have a baby. This was in the days before home pregnancy tests, so I made an appointment with a local neighborhood OBGYN for a test. When the results came back, Billy no longer talked of marriage. I didn't tell my parents. I was afraid they would make me break up with Billy, which in retrospect was probably the best thing that could have happened. I had learned about abortion from my mother years before while we watched an episode of TV, which featured a young woman who died after a botched abortion. My mother said no one in our family had ever had an abortion. Years later, I would learn that wasn't true, but at the time, that was the case. I didn't know anyone else who had had an abortion. Billy told his mother, who said I should ask a doctor for help. I returned to the doctor and had my first pelvic exam. He said everything looked fine. He told me he couldn't do anything to help me end it, and he couldn't tell me anyone who could. My boyfriend, however, had slept with an older woman that he was still friends with, a single mother in her 30s. We went to visit her. She told us she had tried to end pregnancies herself by injecting bleach and using a coat hanger. I had never heard anything like this. She warned me not to try those things. She gave me a number to call, and I called. It would cost $400, which was a lot of money in 1964. It would have been 800 hours of babysitting or about 6 months of rent for my parents' apartment. But we were able to set a date for 10 a.m. the following week. I was told I would be met by the highway at a parking lot of a chain restaurant about 5 hours off the turnpike in Maryland. I had never gone for a car trip that far before. Billy borrowed his parents' car, and his mother said she would give us the $400. Luckily, my parents were out of town for the weekend. I was supposed to be watching my 13-year-old sister, but she was old enough to take care of herself. I told her we would be gone for the day, and she was not to tell our parents. We left early in the morning and drove the 5 hours. When we arrived at the parking lot, we were met by a middle-aged man in a car. My companions were told they could not come with me, and I was ushered into the car with 4 other women. Our companions were to meet us in the same spot at 5 p.m. All of us in the car were blindfolded. I had no idea where I was, and I don't think the other one knew either. I was scared about the abortion. I don't think I knew enough to be scared that I might never be brought back to that parking lot, that I could bleed out and die, that I might be left infertile or injured or something else entirely. That's how naive I was. Eventually, we were brought to a big room in a farmhouse. All of the other women were older. One was married with a few children, including one my own age, and it never occurred to me that someone like that could need an abortion. There were other, adults, one whose boyfriend had left her, a teacher in her 20s who just wasn't ready to get married, and then a woman who just quietly sobbed the entire time. The other women were supportive, especially to me, as I was the youngest. Each woman was taken one at a time and came back, and less steady but okay. When it was my turn, I was brought to a room with bright lights and an examination table. There was a much older man at the foot of the bed who wore a surgical mask, though he never said a word. The other man stayed with us and told me to put my feet in the stirrups. There was no anesthesia, no sedation. He said it would hurt, but that it would be okay. Let me tell you, it did hurt. It hurt a lot. I think the person doing the operation was a doctor. I think. He never said a word. And I remember talking to the other man during the abortion. Between the time I found out I was pregnant and the abortion, I learned I was accepted to a very prestigious college. And I was so nervous and in such pain, I was just prattling on about how I couldn't have a baby if I was going to go to college and what would my life be like, and it just wouldn't work out that way. When it was all said and done, he said I did well, and he brought me back to the room with the other women. We rested, and then we were blindfolded again, put back in the car, and taken back to the parking lot. We were told we could use an ice pack or take an aspirin. We drove back to New York, and I went back to my parents' apartment. My parents came home Sunday night. On Monday, I went back to school. I bled a lot. I never told my parents about the abortion, and they never found out. At the age of 17, this was the most important thing to me. I was very lucky. Very lucky. None of the terrible things that could have happened, happened. I'm somewhat surprised to remember so much 57 years later like it just happened. It's clear that it would have been terrible if I had married Billy. At best, I would have become a divorced single mother of one. More likely, I would have spent years in a bad relationship. But this is the important thing. Because I did have the abortion, I was able to live a life that I would not have been able to live otherwise. I feel I have been able to make many contributions to the world as a mother to a very much wanted series of children, and an aunt and grandmother, a university professor, and a politically and socially active member of my communities. I now have grandnieces older than I was when I had the abortion, and a granddaughter who is almost as old. None of them, and no other women globally, should have to struggle to end an unwanted pregnancy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as you can hear, this is a testimony of so many of the atrocities that can happen and that happen to us women. So what I would like to ask you now is to, again, take out your phones, whatever device you have, and go to riseup4abortionrights.org, for the number 4, abortionrights.org, and sign up right now. Be part of this movement. We're making history. And right now, we can prevent this atrocity from happening. So again, log on to riseup4, the number 4, abortionrights.org. Now, I would like to introduce somebody that I respect a lot, and that is one of the co-initiators of this movement, the co-host of the RNL Revolution Nothing Less, and her name is Sonsara Taylor. Give it up for Sonsara, everyone. How you feeling, sisters and brothers, beautiful people? Last December, the Supreme Court heard arguments in a case out of Mississippi, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health. And this is a case that could upend, could overturn the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that first granted women the right to abortion nationwide. And during that hearing, the fascist majority on the court made it crystal clear and gave every indication that they are on track to take this right away. This is an emergency, sisters and brothers. And during that hearing, that fascist theocrat who Donald Trump put on the court, Amy Coney Barrett, she said, what's the big deal? What's the big deal about forcing a woman to carry a pregnancy she doesn't want and have a child she doesn't want? Because there are laws that say she can just drop the baby off at a police station. Think about the cruelty of that. Think about the violence of that. Think about the state being given the power to hijack a woman's body, to turn her into an incubator, to force her to undergo 9 months of pregnancy, with all the health risks that entails, with all the stigma and the judgment that often comes with that, with all the force and the humiliation of being taken over by the state, and the trauma of having to wonder for your life, what became of that child you were forced to create? Think about that. This is one of the people who has the power right now if we do not stand up to decide the fate of women. And think about all of the women who will be forced to have children they do not want, who will have their lives foreclosed, their dreams shattered. Think about the daughters and the brutality that will be brought down on them by parents and fathers who think they brought shame on their family. Think about the women who will be forced to drop out of school or lose their jobs or be driven into poverty. Think about the women who will be trapped in abuse. The shotgun marriage is the lifetime of misery. This is why we say, and it is true, forced motherhood is female enslavement. I want you to say that. Forced motherhood is female enslavement. Now say this, when women are not free, no one is free. Only the people can stop this. And I want you to understand that every attack on abortion over the last several decades, every woman who's been harassed and called a murderer outside a clinic door, every doctor who has been assassinated, every law and restriction that has been passed, all of them are unjust. None of them were fought the way they needed to be fought. But understand this. They have all led to the moment we are in today. We are at a tipping point where the highest court in the land is on track to take this right away, to bring the full force of the state down on the half of humanity that is born female and to unleash a living fucking nightmare. This is the tipping point. This is the tipping point, and this is where we must draw a line and fight like our lives, like the lives of women and girls and future generations are on the line, because they are. Last week I was here in this square and we were building for this rally, and I had this green bandana. And a woman from Argentina came running up. She knew what it meant. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but she had advice for the women of this country. This means abortion. We'll not find out if we don't go out and wake them up. And the second thing we need to do is we need to act with courage and defiance. We need to stand up. We need to put it on the line, and we need to rouse the courage and the fighting spirit in millions of others. I want to read what this flyer says. It says, it's very simple. It says the U.S. Supreme Court is poised to take away women's right to abortion this spring. Only the people can stop it. Take to the streets and rise up for abortion rights now. Abortion on demand and without apology. Forced motherhood is female enslavement. Now, I've talked about what the court is going to do. And I've talked about forced motherhood as female enslavement, but I want to focus on these words now in this flyer, where it says only the people can stop this.
I need some money.
It is very important. The courts are not going to stop this. They are packed with fascists. Voting in the elections is not going to stop this. The fascist Republican Party is rigging the elections, suppressing the vote, and they have already made clear that they are willing to use violence to overturn any election they lose. And the Democratic Party is not going to stop this. Biden won't even say the word abortion. And the Democratic Party is busy seeking common ground with these religious fanatics and fascists and appealing to their decency. Even while these fascists kick them in the teeth and threaten their lives. And this will not be stopped by relying on the official women's movement, where the so-called leaders of this so-called movement are telling people that there's nothing you can do but accept the fall of Roe v. Wade and prepare for a post-Roe world. Hell no! Only the people can stop this. Only the people. That is you, each of you, and those we get out there and wake them up and mobilize them. And we can do this because we have right on our side. We are standing for the interests of millions and millions of women and girls, whether they know it yet or not. And we can do this because there is a suppressed fury, a rage that is deep in the hearts of women across this country and around this world, at thousands and thousands of years of patriarchal chains, of brutality and control, of enslavement and shame. And there is a fury that can be woken up and aroused as these chains of oppression are being tightened yet again. But that will not be woken up if we don't go out and mobilize it and act on our fury and act with courage and put it on the line, and that is what we must do. Merle talked about how a few days ago people with Rise Up for Abortion Rights got in the face of Amy Coney Barrett and called her out. We need this all over the country. Acts of courage and defiance right up in the face of these fascists that cannot be ignored. They get caught in the media that stir and wake others up. We need street theater. We need flash mobs. We need civil disobedience. We need walkouts. We need each of you to be part of putting your heads together and organizing and strategizing. How are we going to act to wake others up? And do not tell yourself it cannot be done. We all lived through that beautiful rising. Just 2 years ago, the beautiful rising against the police murder of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, we all saw the conscience of the people of this country be woken up by people who drew a line and said no more. I was in Minneapolis. Don't let them steal from you the memories and the lessons of what we accomplished. I saw thousands of young people, mainly white, sit down in the streets and refused to move as the National Guard came at them with tear gas and rubber canisters. They did it because Black Lives Matter. And they changed the hearts of millions of people, and they did it quickly across this country. And women's lives matter too. And we have to get out there and arouse the same kind of fight. And I want to tell you, the Supreme Court and all the other rulers, they are political institutions. They look out at the society and they judge the popular will and what they can get away with. And when people sat down and let them take away the right to abortion in Texas without rising up, without walking out, without shutting down the freeways, without bringing society to a halt. They got the signal, these Christian fascists, that they could put their foot on the accelerator and come for the rights of women across this country, and they have been. So we have to rise up and make it clear to the Supreme Court and the fascists everywhere else that there will be a political price to pay in their legitimacy, in the eyes of millions, in the eyes of people around the world. That is what we can change when we rise up. And on the week, this is also on the flyer, May 8th through 14th. And we're having an organizing Zoom next weekend. On Saturday, you all need to join it, to learn, to bring your ideas, to get organized. May 8th through 18th, we are having a national week of rising up for abortion rights, and we need walkouts, and we need shutdowns, and we need acts on stage and in the sciences, in the arts, in the schools, in the streets, in the institutions and workplaces, everywhere. We need to rock this society and make it clear that if they lay their hands on the right to abortion, if they lay their hands on women's bodies and lives, their society will be prevented from functioning at all. And as we go forward in this fight, we are going to lift our heads and we are going to struggle over and ask the big questions. What kind of society do we live in where these rights are under attack 50 years after they were won? What is it going to take to win this fight once and for all? And we're going to have different views in how we come at this. And we're not going to agree on everything. But I want to tell you, I come at this as a follower of the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian. He is the architect of the new communism, and he is a big reason why I am such a ferocious fighter for abortion rights and the liberation of women. Because I see this as central to the emancipation of all of humanity. And I want to read to you a quote from him that has powerful insight. He says this whole question of the position and role of women in society is more and more acutely posed in today's extreme circumstances. This is a powder keg in the U.S. today. It is not conceivable that all this will find any resolution other than in the most radical terms and through extremely violent means. The question yet to be determined is, will it be a radical reactionary or a radical revolutionary resolution? Will it mean the reinforcing of the chains of enslavement or the shattering of the most decisive links in those chains and the opening up of the possibility of realizing the complete elimination of all forms of such enslavement? This is what is concentrated in this fight right now, and this is how I come at it and invite you to come at it as part of building to bring about a whole better world where all humanity is emancipated. And I invite you to tune in and learn more about the revolution I'm part of on the YouTube show I co-host, the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, every Thursday night. Find out about it. And I want to say, once again, that the future I want and the future you want, even if there are differences, none of them are possible if we lay down and accept half of humanity being enslaved. So now is the time for us to stand shoulder to shoulder together, to find our courage, to rise to this moment in history, and to wake others up. We need to wave this bandana and wear it every day. And I want you to say it with me. Abortion on demand and without apology. Abortion on demand and without apology. Abortion on demand and without apology. Rise up, wear green. 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 Rise up, wear green.
Give it up for Samsara one more time. And we gotta act on what Samsara was saying. We gotta act now. Take out your phone and make sure that you sign up. There's a QR code on literally everything. Put your phone up to it. Sign up. It's Rise Up for the number abortionrights.org. Because you gotta join this. You are needed in this fight, and it is a great privilege to introduce Lori Soko, founder and executive director of Women's E-News, award-winning author, and co-initiator of Rise Up for Abortion Rights.
Me to read this statement. She couldn't be here, but we all know who she is. And of course, one of our foremost leaders from decades ago and is still. So I'm going to read her statement and then I'll continue after that. Because the desire to control wombs and birth giving is the very definition of patriarchy. Power over women's bodies has always come first. The morning after Hitler was elected, for instance, his very first act was to padlock the family planning clinics and declare abortion to be a crime against the state. The freedom to have or not to have children is a freedom at least as fundamental as freedom of speech. Yet because its absence takes freedom away from women first, it may not be seen as fundamental to everyone, male and female. I thank everyone who has gathered here today and speaking up for this fundamental freedom. There is nothing more basic or important for all of life on this fragile spaceship Earth. I am with you. And I also thank my friend Lori for bringing you these words. With love and sisterhood, Gloria Steinem. Male, black, white, whatever age you are, regardless of religion, what it's going to mean for everybody. So I don't know how many of you know this, but one day before the Supreme Court nominee, who is now our new Supreme Court Justice, Justice Brown Jackson. Yes. So one day before confirmation hearings began, Senator Marsha Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee, released a video in which she denounced liberals for wanting Supreme Court justices who will be in quote, a rubber stamp for their cultural agenda, while declaring that the 1965 Supreme Court decision that legalized the right to birth control was constitutionally unsound. They're going to go after birth control after Roe. Watch this. She was simply repeating the view that has been building for years on the right, that the Supreme Court's decision in Griswold versus Connecticut, which legalized access to birth control, needs to go. But Griswold stands for so much more than birth control, and that's why Republicans want to see it overturned. In the Griswold versus Connecticut decision, the court recognized for the first time a constitutional right to privacy, and that's what this is all about. It found that it was violated by the state's law that made it a crime to encourage people, in this case, a married couple, to use birth control. From there, this right to privacy would be expanded in later Supreme Court decisions to extend beyond married couples to other personal liberties. It became the building block for other noteworthy Supreme Court cases that much of the GOP disapproves of, from Roe v. Wade in 1973 to the 2003 Lawrence versus Texas decision that ruled state laws banning homosexual sodomy were unconstitutional, to the 2015 Obergefell versus Hodges decision recognizing a constitutional right to same-sex marriage. The GOP is telling us that its goal is to overturn Griswold so that it can then enact state laws consistent with its grotesquely reactionary views, from pushing to ban abortion to possibly criminalizing the LGBT community. Before you dismiss this as being over the top, keep in mind that the GOP has always played the long game when it comes to its right-wing goals. So Republicans are now moving closer to utter control of every part of our lives based on these extreme beliefs, from banning books to banning school curricula on Black history, right? Under the guise of racist bans of critical race theory, to banning transgender girls and women from school sports, to banning discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity in schools. They are now telling us the next goal is to overturn Griswold, along with the cases that relied on its reasoning, in the hope that it enables them to not only ban abortion, but curtail access to birth control, ban marriage equality, and even criminalize being gay. I would be a criminal, according to them. Everyone who's gay, who's here, everyone in this country would be considered a criminal. These are the stakes. Remember that. I'd like to now introduce our next speaker, who's a good friend, Judith Kaysen Windsor, wife of the late and great Edie Windsor, whose landmark case led the Supreme Court to grant same-sex couples federal recognition. Please join me in welcoming Judith Kaysen Windsor.
I'm not as tall as Lori. And I am Judith Kaysen Windsor, and apparently I am a criminal also. I've lived most of my life being a criminal, as being a gay woman. 2003, Lawrence v. Texas. 2013, U.S. v. Windsor. My wife fought the Supreme Court and won marriage equality. And if you think, yes, and if you think they will stop with abortion and Roe v. Wade, it's 50 years old. Let's move on. We have better things to do. This is about women's health. This is not about abortion. And this is about control. So if they're going to control women, they're going to control LGBTQ people. And they're going to control Black and brown people. And let's be honest, if you look at the statistics of abortion, it's not Black and brown people who have the majority. It's over almost 40% of non-white Hispanic women are getting abortions. Same thing with AIDS. I went through the whole AIDS thing starting in college. Act up, rise up. Excuse me. Going through that was against gay men. But where were the men in that? Where there are men back there standing up for pro-life. Unless you're living the life, unless you have it and affects you and affects your family members and the people you love, you don't get it. And so if they go after abortion, they're going to go after women. Do you know that 60% of new AIDS cases in this country, same thing, women of color. 60% of AIDS cases today are women of color. So if they're going to go after Roe, they're going to go after everything else, and it's always to marginalized communities. To watch my wife go to the Supreme Court, and the way the Supreme Court is set up now, if we have a 6-3, it's a sham. It's an absolute sham. Over 50% of this country is women. You can watch erectile dysfunction commercials on TV all the time during news programs. They even show a carrot. Could you imagine if they showed something on TV of a woman's reproductive rights? Doesn't happen. I agree with Gloria Steinem 100%. It's patriarch. And in a time when patriarch society did not accept gay women or gay men, here we are again. Roe versus Wade. I ask you all to really dig deep. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to people in other states. Talk to people and let them know how important this is. This is not really about abortion. This is not about killing babies. This is about women's health. That's right. And if they have women's health, they'll go after everything else. My mental health as an LGBTQ person. You know, we fought really hard for Windsor. And then if they go after that, then they will go after Obergefell. And that's what they'll do. They'll take the federal law and throw it back to the states. And then what you have is a war between red and blue. But there's a lot of purple out there. And so we need the whole purple community to understand, one by one, law by law, what is important to you, what is important to your family, and stand up, fight back. Thank you.
Not the church, not the state, women must decide their fate. Not the church, not the state, women must decide their state. Not the church, not the state, women must decide their fate. Come on. Not the church, not the state, women must decide their fate. Not the church. And I have another one for you. Keep your rosaries off our ovaries. Keep your rosaries off our ovaries. Keep your rosaries off our ovaries. Mantenga su rosario fuera de mis ovarios. Mantenga su rosario fuera de mis ovarios. Come on, come on. Let me to introduce another co-organizer and wonderful speaker, Amaris Modesto, who's going to talk to you right now. Where are you, Amaris? Come on, give it up for Amaris.
Give it up for yourselves. This is a really beautiful crowd. There are people gathering all over the country doing the same thing. We need to do much, much more of this. So give it up for yourselves one more time. And of course, to make all these beautiful signs, to coordinate people and to really get organized, we need funds. And at the end of the day, you know, this is something that is obviously super important. Women's humanity is on the line. Women's right to abortion being a fundamental right that we should all have, right? So this is something that we need funds to print flyers, to make signs, to gather people, to get organized on our website, social media, advertise, all of these things. And we are looking for all of you to be a part of that. And one easy way to do that is if you can pull up your phone right now. Everyone has a cell phone. Many people have cell phones. Go to riseupfораbortionrights.org and scroll down to the donate section. You can donate $5. You can donate $10. You can donate $25. You can make a recurring donation a part of the way you contribute to this movement. Knowing also that some of your friends and family may have wanted to be here with you on the streets today, but weren't able to do so. These are people you should encourage to visit our website, not only to donate, but to learn more about how they can get connected with this movement. riseupfораbortionrights.org. riseupfораbortionrights.org. It's on all the signs. It's everywhere that you can see. And I'm going to call this out right now, a challenge to anyone who's able to make a donation right on the spot. We have a bucket in the back. Wave that bucket. It's a white bucket. It's going around the room. Can you make $5 donation right on the spot? I see a $5 hand. Can somebody match that $5 in this room? I keep calling it a room. It's not a room. All right. And really, if you believe that women and girls are full human beings, can you make a $10 donation? I see some $10. $10. What about a 20? Oh, I got a 20 on stage.
I think I got a 40.
That will add to that the bucket.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. $20. Who can give $40? $40. Dig deep in those pockets. I know y'all got that. $40. We have $40 on stage. This is an abortion rights emergency. this Supreme Court decision threatening to take away this basic right. We have $40. This is a big one now. I'm gonna make a jump to $100. And reminder that if you don't have cash on hand, you can go to riseupforabortionrights.org and make a donation on the website. A very important way to contribute to this movement. And as you're making these donations, make sure you're sharing with others why you are participating in this and challenge others to do the same. So here is $100 on stage. $100 on stage. Thank you all so much. I won't take up any more of your time, but definitely the basket will continue, or bucket will continue to move around. The website is available all the time. We also on demand and without apology.
Abortion on demand and without apology.
And now we're gonna. This one doesn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it does now. And now we're gonna bring up Michelle Chai, who's coming all the way from Los Angeles. Give it up. She's a member of the Revolution Club. Let's give her a warm welcome. All right. How's everybody doing? So I am Michelle, like Sam said, I'm with the Revolution Club out in Los Angeles, but I'm here in New York and taking up this very righteous and important fight to demand abortion on demand and without apology. And myself and the Revolution Club, who's here wearing the Revolution Nothing Less t-shirts, are taking up this very needed struggle and fight because of what it's gonna mean for not just women, but all of humanity if these fascists are able to succeed in enslaving women. This nightmare of a future that we have to stop by getting out into the streets. We in the Revolution Club have 6 points of attention for the revolution. And our point of attention number 2 says we fight for a world where we fight for a world where all the chains are broken, where women, men, and differently gendered people are equals and comrades. And that's the kind of world that we are fighting for, and that's the kind of world that we intend to bring into being. And we follow the leadership of Bob Avakian because this is somebody who has gotten to the root of why we are facing the situation that we are facing today. While being out and fighting for people to be here in the streets today, we've confronted many people that were seriously agonizing about why 50 years after we have had this right, why are they fighting to get rid of this right? Why is the Supreme Court right now looking at these cases and are getting ready to gut this right? Which is a very important and very right question to be asking. And Bob Avakian has done the work to go deep. What we don't see with a naked eye, he's actually done the scientific analysis to point to why it is that we are still fighting this fight, and why it is that now it has taken a leap where these people are fighting to enslave humanity. And we're taking up this fight as part of making revolution to put an end to this whole system of capitalism, imperialism that is at the root of all of this and why we're at this point. And part of what we are doing here today is we are bringing hope to people. Because when people look out and see how dangerous, how scary, and how dark the future looks, being out in the streets brings that hope to people. And we are bringing this hope on a scientific basis because Bob Avakian is pointing to the reality that out of all of this darkness and out of all of this horror, something truly emancipating can be wrenched out of it, but only through an
actual revolution, and only if people take up this leadership and make an actual revolution to get rid of this system. And that's what we in the Revolution Club are doing. We are taking up this leadership, and we are going to work now to change this whole situation where people who are feeling so hopeless and so desperate and are just getting ready to accept defeat can see how out of all of this we can wrench something truly positive out of this. And we invite all of you at Revolution Books in Harlem tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come meet the Revolution Club. Come get into the leadership of Bob Avakian. Come get into this deep analysis that people have to understand right now. To understand scientifically, once again, why we are facing the situation that we are facing, and how out of something so terrible, we can wrench out something truly emancipating. So come talk to the Revolution Club. Come march with us. Look for the people wearing the Revolution Nothing Less t-shirts. And if all of this left you feeling uneasy, don't listen to the voices that tell you to don't listen to a man talk about the oppression of women. If you feel uneasy about this, come talk to us. Because these are the questions that people need to be thinking about and getting into now, because it matters not who's saying, but what is actually being said about the reality that we are confronting and what to do about it. So come talk to the Revolution Club. Thank you all, beautiful people, and we're gonna march pretty soon.
My name is Bayla Kraus. I'm a student and youth organizer with Rise Up for Abortion Rights. I am 15 years old and I'm furious. I am angry at the state of the world that has been left to my generation. Currently, the Supreme Court is poised to strip people with uteruses of their constitutional right to an abortion. And you know what? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna fight back. We will not stand for this, and we will not be silenced. We will not comply when our futures and our dreams are under attack. We have power as a movement, and we need to organize together and follow the lead of women in Colombia, Mexico, and Argentina. Together we will fight, and together we will make them listen to us. We have been silenced for too long. We need to hear every single one of your stories, every single one of your ideas, and every single one of your voices, because in this fight, we all need to be heard. Right now, I'm calling on the youth to stand up, because these are our futures, our hopes, and our dreams that are on the line. We are done accepting that, and we don't have much time. A decision will be made sometime in late spring on whether or not to overturn Roe v. Wade. So, we must be relentless, and we must keep up this fucking fight. If you're angry, let me hear you. Abortion on demand and without apology. Thank you, guys.
Make some noise for Bayla! Everybody, if you do not have a backpack or a handbag full of these flyers, you gotta go and change that. There's an organizing table right over there. There's stickers, there's bandanas. We gotta go out, and we gotta go from 100 people, we gotta go to tens and thousands of people. We gotta see the screen everywhere. So go and fill your bag, go right now. Fill your bag. I want everybody to take their bandana, take it off your neck for a second, and hold it up. Hold it up. And I want you to repeat after me. The U.S. Supreme Court is poised to take away women's right to abortion. Only the people can stop this. Take to the streets. Take to the streets. And rise up enslavement. Rise up! Rise up! Wear green! Rise up! Wear green! Ah!
Bueno, ¿verdad? El ser madre de forma forzada quiere decir la esclavitud femenina y no podemos permitir que esto pase. Así que de nuevo, aborto a solicitud y sin pedir disculpas. Aborto a solicitud y sin pedir disculpas. El futuro está en nuestras manos. No está tarde. El aborto legal se queda. Aborto legal se queda. Y está en nuestras manos el tomar las calles y hacer una ola, una marea verde por los derechos reproductivos, por los derechos de las mujeres. Ahora, ¿qué queremos? ¿Qué queremos? Justicia. ¿Y cuándo? El aborto se queda legal ahora. Gracias.
Woo! We're gonna bring up.
Thank you so much. Hello, hello, hello. Let's hear you make some noise, please. Hi. Oh my gosh. It's just about time. It's just about time for us to move. And we're gonna learn some music today. We've got our good pal Ira on guitar here. But before we do that, Andrew, do you want to talk about the logistics of what's about to go down and how we're going to do that?
We're going to sing in 2 parts. It's going to be great. Don't worry.
You got this.
You've got this. And we're going to develop these parts with a little bit of help from our friends Mira and Machi and Renee over here, who are unfurling, if you look right over here, this green river. So we are gonna run this green river right through the middle of our crowd. I was not close enough to the microphone. They're gonna bring this right down front, and then we're gonna run it right through the center of the crowd. Awesome, here we go, here we go, here we go. We're running it right through the front. This is great. So now, Renee, can I have you come to about right here in the front? Yeah.
Maybe in front of the red table here?
Yeah, this red Broadway through the crowd. So Renee, can you just snake that green river through everybody back towards Broadway?
There you
and
go.
Renee is going to wind up at where the front of the march is going to be. So along the course of the march, we're going to have our green river running. Now everybody who's along this river here, we're going to need help holding it up, like we hold up each other. So if you're near the river, step in, move in a little bit close to it, and grab on. That's awesome. You can face that way or this way. We're going to sing over here, and we're going to teach you a little bit of a tune. So everybody who is over on this side of the river right now, thank you, is going to be with Ellen. And everybody on this side is going to be with me. So we're going to learn some halves of this song chant together. It's a little bit of a Patti Smith, John Lennon mashup.
Yes. Yes, and real quick, before we get into learning, just shout out to Materials for the Arts for making this river possible, to Here Arts Center, and to, wait, there's one more person on the list that we've got. And Normandy Sherwood, thank you so much. So, can we hear the guitar? Is it coming through? Great. Cool. All right. Okay, so everybody on this side, we're gonna learn this call and response style. You all have been doing this amazingly today, so I have the utmost confidence
Don't worry about doing it correctly. We're all just shouting into the abyss and hoping that we can make some change happen, yes? Because we are going to do it. So, John Lennon's song. I'm gonna go first, then you'll repeat. So, this is what we'll do. We got power to the people. Your turn. Power to the people. Second one goes, power to the people. Then the first one again, power to the people. Then the last one is a little different, slightly different rhythm. We go, power to the people, right on. Your turn. Power to the people, right on. Awesome. All right, let's put it all together from the top. So we'll go 2, 3, and power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people, right on. Yeah, you got it. One more time. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people, right on. Awesome. And then there's a second part, right?
Yeah.
Andrew, you want to teach your part?
So it'll go, the people have the power. Try that. The people have the power. You're crushing it. And then it'll go, the people have the power. Try that. The people have the power. Yeah, and it's gonna layer in. So we're gonna restart, and Ellen's gonna take this side through a round, and then my side, follow me when we jump in and jump around, try both parts.
Everybody over here. Power to the people. Nice and loud. Power to the people. You sound amazing. Power to the people. Power to the people. Right on. Keep going.
The people have the
Power
power.
to the people.
The people have the power.
To the people.
People have the power.
To the people.
People have the
Power
power.
to the people, right
Yeah,
on.
you got it. People
Yeah.
have the
Power
power.
to the people.
People have the
Power
power.
to the
The
people.
people have the
Power
power.
to the people.
People have the
Have the
power.
power, right on.
All right, we got it.
Yeah. Power. One more round, ready?
Yeah.
The people.
People have the
Power
power.
to the people.
People have the
Power
power.
to the people.
People have the
Power
power.
to the people, right on. Okay, amazing. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do some stuff now?
Yeah, so if I could get a thumbs up from the front of the march from some of our leaders.
Yeah.
there. How y'all feeling up there?
How's everybody doing up there, front of the march?
Awesome. So now we're well positioned. We're gonna kind of 180 around.
Yes.
And up at the front of the march, you're gonna see a little bit of brass. We've got. Can you hear them?
Can you see the brass? We got our brass
Yeah.
folks. Yes, our brass and percussion folks at the front.
And we are gonna follow our percussionists.
Yes. And you can grab a sign. There's plenty of signs around.
Yeah,
Please
you don't
grab
have the
one.
sign, grab on a big pile right over here in the middle.
Yes.
Sign.
And we're just going to rotate. We're going to march towards Broadway. We're going to wind up at Washington Square Park at the front. We've got our banner and our band that you can follow. Make your voices heard. Keep singing. Thank you so much. Woo-hoo.